Today, you are going to learn how you can add fractions with denominators of 10 and 100. Jana and Steve collected money for an animal shelter. Jana collected 5/100ths of their goal while Steve collected 4/10ths. How much of their goal did Jana and Steve collect? So we need to add these numbers. And our equation is going to be 5/100 plus 4/10. Now, since these numbers have different denominators, we cannot add them until we change the denominators to be the same. Whenever I am adding two fractions that have 110, this is the trick that Mrs. Cox uses. I just take the denominator, that's a 10, and I add a 0, and then I go ahead and add a 0 to my numerator. That, I feel, is the easiest way to do it. Then you can just add them up, and so our answer would be 45/100. The biggest mistake that I see is that when students are adding 5/100ths and 4/10ths, they do not change the denominators. And so they would just add 5 plus 4, which is 9, and then use 100. And their answer would be 9/100ths, which would be incorrect. The correct answer is 45/100. Let's look at how they are showing us. So, in the bubble, it says here that you need to use like denominators to add fractions. So, the red shows 4/10ths. So if we see that, I just colored it in blue for you, of the goal. And the blue shows 5/100ths. I'm going to erase that so you can see it better. So the red over here shows 4/10ths, and the blue shows 5/100ths. As you can see, the blue is tiny compared to the red amount. 4/10ths is way bigger than 5/100ths. So the amount they collected can be written as 4/10ths plus 5/100ths. We have to rewrite 4/10ths as an equivalent fraction of a denominator of 100. So we need to multiply the numerator and denominator by 10. Or you can just add a 0 to each side. Then we're going to add the numerators and write the sum over the like denominator, which is just like what I did. So let's look at the convince me. In the problem above, why is the denominator 100 and not 200? Well, the denominator is going to be 100 because all we did was change 4/10ths into 100. Now let's do the guided practice together. Do you understand? Suppose Jana collected another 25/100ths of their goal. What fraction of the goal would they have now collected? Well, if we remember from the previous problem, I'm just going to write number 1 down here. We had 45/100ths from our answer, and now we're going to add another 25/100ths. Since our denominator is the same, it's just going to stay 100, and then we just add 45 plus 25. Which would be 70/100 or 7/10ths. You can write it either way. Number 2, we need to write a problem that represents the addition shown below. So if I look at number 2, I'm just going to do it down here, and I'm probably going to use another page to do the other side. So if I look here, I have 9/10ths for my first fraction, plus, now I'm going to add this second one. It's out of 100 would be my denominator, and out of 100 it looks like 71 squares are filled in because each row is 10. So if I added up all the rows, I'd have 7 full rows and then 1 left over. Now we cannot add those, we have to change it. So I'm going to take my fraction that is a denominator of 10, and I'm going to add a 0 to the bottom and to the top. So now I have 90/100 plus 71/100. And if I add those up, 100 is going to be my denominator. And now I have to add up 90 plus 71. And I get 161/100. And then I can just change that to 1 whole and 61/100ths. All right, I am going to do numbers 3 through 8 on a separate sheet. If you want to go ahead and try them on your own and then check your work with mine, that would be fine. If you're still a little bit confused, just do the work with me. Okay, now we're going to do numbers 3 through 8. So I'm going to start with number 3. I have 3 tenths plus 40 hundredths. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a 0 to the 3 and a 0 to 100. So my answer is going to be 34 over 100. All right, number 4. I'm going to move number 4 down here so we have a little bit more room. We have 71 over 100 plus 5 tenths. Take your fraction that has a denominator of 10, just add a 0 to the bottom, a 0 to the top. So now when I add it up, I'm going to get 100 as my denominator because that's the same. And then I'm going to add 50 plus 71, which would be 121 over 100, so it's going to equal 1 and 21 hundredths. All right, number 5. I have 3 over 100 plus 38 tenths. Same thing, I'm just going to add a 0 to my tenths and to the numerator, and I'm going to end up with 383 over 100. My denominator doesn't change, so I'm going to end up with 3 is my whole number and 83 hundredths. All right, now we're going to move to number 6. We have 90 over 100 plus 1 tenth. Add your zeros to the tenths, and we're going to end up with 100 over 100, which equals 1 whole. So that was number 6, was down there. Number 7, these are a little unique because they have more than 2 numbers, but we have 8 tenths. It's going to be easy, you're going to see. We have 8 tenths plus 1 tenth plus 7 hundredths. Well, since one of our denominators is 100, we're going to add 0 to the tenths, add 0 to this tenths. Now just add your top numbers up. So we've got 80 plus 10 is 90, plus 7 is 97 over 100. So that one goes with that. And then our last one, we have 38 over 100 plus 4 tenths plus 2 tenths. So now, since our denominators are not all the same, we're going to add our zeros to the tenths. Make sure you add them to the top and the bottom. And now we're just going to add them up. 38 plus 40 would be 78, plus 20 would be 98 over 100. And now you have all of the work done for you. So you're going to do problems numbers 9 through 23. If you want, you can go a step further and take each of your answers and make it into a decimal. So for example, 3 and 83 hundredths would just be 3.83. 1 whole would just be 1 whole. 1 and 21 hundredths would be 1.21. So if you, or 1 and 21 hundredths equals 1 and 21 hundredths. Sorry, I told you we're not supposed to say 1 point something. So you can do that as an extra step for extra credit. Do your work and show it, and then finish all the problems on page 647 and come show me, and then I will partner you up with someone.